I lived in my car for 2.5 months around this time last year.
I live in my car because the cost of living in America is just too high.
This is how I use the bathroom while living in my car.
So in today's world, with single-family home prices going through the roof, many have turned to renting, but now that has become priced out of many people's budgets. So we're seeing a growing trend of people becoming homeless living in their vehicles to survive. I wanted to go more in depth with this and what it entails, because I think some would just believe it's similar to van life and being able to travel around and see the country, but there are many problems and examples we're going to see today, along with some of your comments from previous videos. So if you want to be featured on a future video, leave it in the comments down below. We're going to start off with a comment from one of you guys. It's crazy how much things have changed. Everything is getting more expensive: rent, food, and gas. Feels like no matter how much you make, it's never enough. People are literally living in their cars, trying to go off-grid just to survive. I think that's a good transition into the first clip.
So let me get this straight. We can't afford rent because rent prices are increasing so much to push us out to buy homes. But the interest rate is so high, you can't buy a home. And also you're not going to get funded for a home because of your debt to income ratio. So then what? And then homelessness or houselessness is becoming criminalized. So then what? I don't understand.
And because of those exact reasons, we'll even see later in the video talking about getting in trouble being homeless. We'll see clips like this on screen, thinking about living in my car and showering at the gym. The cost of rent is too high right now. And we could take a look at an example of somebody doing exactly this.
I live in my 2006 Honda Accord, and this is what it's like to wake up in a 24-hour Planet Fitness parking lot. I start by getting dressed, and then the longest part of my morning routine is always taking down all of my window coverings, but they are essential for sleeping in my car, so I do it anyways. Then I climb over into the driver's seat and take down my window coverings there. I actually already went into this Planet Fitness last night to take a shower, for all of you who say that I don't shower. So this morning I can go ahead and leave straight away and drive to Panera Bread. But first, the bathroom. Obviously, I used the restroom and washed my hands. I brushed my teeth in my car. I don't know, like, that's weird to show on camera. I don't know why y'all are asking to see that. Anyways, now it's time to drink my hot bean juice to wake up and get some computer work done.
So overall, I don't think this is the ideal situation for everyone, but it doesn't really seem that horrible because they just end up showering in a gym and then they go to Panera Bread to be able to work on the computer. In the end, that still cost money, as we're going to see a little bit later, and this is definitely not the same situation that everybody's going through.
Your girl is freezing. So normally I just put on a hoodie and I have my t-shirt blanket that I use to sleep in, and I've been okay. If I wake up cold, I normally just turn the heat on in the car for like 5 minutes, turn it off, go back to sleep. But it is 50 degrees outside. And my hair is still wet because I washed it after I went to the gym. So, we're pulling out the 20-degree sleeping bag. This is what it looks like. Let's unzip it. The sleeping bag is about to my stomach, but honestly, this is already a lot warmer. Until my hat, gloves, and other warmer blanket comes, just gotta do it. Good night, y'all.
And this is when it starts to become not nearly as fun as some people might think, having to sleep in freezing cold temperatures, and there's nothing you can really do other than bundling up, along with finding a place to park your car, because a lot of places will end up calling the cops on you and they'll show up and you'll have to move. So we'll talk a little bit about stealth camping later in the video, but I do have a comment from one of you guys. When I was homeless and living in my car, I didn't qualify for EBT because I made too much money at my minimum wage grocery store job. And then I had to check out this woman who'd use her food stamps to buy junk food, then use cash to buy 100 plus in alcohol. Then we'd help her out to her car, which was a brand new Cadillac Escalade. This comment was from the welfare fraud video that I made, showing many people taking advantage of the system, and some people who are legitimately homeless weren't able to qualify, while people with $80,000 SUVs were able to get a whole bunch of crap food for free. Here we have another example of one of the difficulties you'd probably think of if you were living in your car 24/7.
I take care of my cat in such a small car. I have a litter box. I have some smell good baking soda And as you all know what this is, the toilet. When I pull up to a car wash, it's a good area to have some privacy with this door here. And I just lift this up and I take my scoop and I scoop it. And it's the best way to do it if you want privacy. This toilet I could show on the other side, but I put it in the middle and I use that inside the vehicle when I need to. It comes in handy when you have IBS. All my shoes are kept down here. It's a good way to keep all storage away from the front, out of the way, out of sight.
I don't know how much storage I'd want to put under the mobile toilet. And along with having a pet, we've seen a couple times on previous videos, especially if you're in a tough situation like having to live out of your vehicle, having a pet on top of it probably isn't the best idea, at least in my opinion. Of course, the cost to keep it alive. I mean, pet food is definitely not cheap, and having it cooped up in a car or a truck or wherever you are is probably not the best situation. We have another comment from one of you guys. I've been living in my car since June and it's rough. I was living with my dog, but one went missing and the other one is now with a foster family, thankfully. I was able to beat my eviction in court because of the fact that the company was evicting so many people at once that they couldn't keep up and just took what they could get. Really crazy times to be living in. I don't know the entire situation, but I do know that there are some areas that are constantly bringing up the rent. The giant conglomerates that own tons and tons of apartment buildings, thousands of units. They're just trying to kick people out as much as humanly possible to get a higher end tenant in their building to pay even more money so they could get even more profits. And again, having a pet while you're cooped up in a vehicle seems like a pretty tough situation. Here's another one that I think people don't realize could be a huge problem.
I live in my car. I'm stuck in South Carolina. This is update number 5 or 6, but I have an alternator that is draining my battery apparently. But the thing is, if I keep an auto zone every hour on my way home, if possible, to check the battery percentage, and then I can charge it before I leave and keep charging it on my drive, do you guys think that I'll make it to Virginia to where I can get my alternator for just $400? Do you think that would be worthy? Because I feel like that would be great, instead of the quote of $1,400 that I was quoted here in South Carolina by the same dealerships. So please, someone give me some advice here. Do you think that would work?
Having these types of problems seem terrible to me. If you don't have a whole ton of money right now and you're living in a vehicle that's older just to be able to survive, chances are it might not be super reliable. So you could have things going wrong like this. I mean, $1,400 and then mapping out a plan to hopefully be able to go to a different state where you could get it for cheaper. You could even make the argument if you have a newer vehicle. We've seen time and time again how unreliable brand new vehicles are, and then you're easily going to have to pay way more for those types of repairs. I mean, a lot of the arguments of becoming homeless so you don't have to rent or pay the mortgage and saving up money just living in your car kind of gets thrown out the window. Another comment from one of you guys: I've been homeless. The folks living in their cars are sacrificing their safety. Another one I don't think people realize too much is also their health.
I lived in my car for 2.5 months around this time last year, and the only things I could eat was McDonald's. Well, afford to eat was McDonald's and Waffle House every single day. It would either be an all-star or I would get 2 cheeseburgers and a small fry from McDonald's. And I might add a cookie to that too, you know, if I work hard enough that day. And some nights I would wake up in the middle of the night because my feet would be frozen cold.
Another person talking about the cold nights living in a car, but you obviously don't have a kitchen, so the only option is to eat out. Majority of the time, that means very unhealthy. I mean, the cheapest things you could find, the Waffle House, McDonald's, which again now in 2025 are not cheap, going over the cost of living. Waffle House, I believe, doubled in price. And we saw another clip of a single like sausage, egg, and cheese sandwich from McDonald's being like $7.50. Just adding on to the fact that you probably won't save as much money as you think, even if you are literally homeless. And unless you actually go and work out at the gym while you shower every day, that's a pretty unhealthy lifestyle. You're not moving around, you're literally sitting in a seat. That could have some really bad long-term effects for people as well. And I've seen some comments like this from you guys: I gave up, I've accepted my retirement and will be living in a car. Which I know some people will say and not take it too seriously. I mean, there's a clip like this.
I live in my car because the cost of living in America is just too high. So I get questions like this, like, what am I going to do if my car busts? Which I feel like is a weird way of phrasing that. But if my car does break down, I'll just get it fixed. And if it's a repair that costs more than $1,000, then I am just going to get rid of the car and then move to Europe and start a new life there.
So there's clips like this that don't really take it too seriously, not thinking it through. How could he say calmly, I'm going to move to Europe, like everything is free there? Many places in Europe, it's just as bad, honestly. Have you considered working on a cruise ship? You could have accommodation and food provided. Not an easy job, but saves a lot. Maybe a good piece of advice from that comment. I've never thought of it. Do you think living in Europe is cheap again? The other reason why I didn't think this was super seriously, you can see all the other comments, the mic clipped to the neck. Eating a block of cheese is crazy. The mic, even though he wasn't wrong overall how difficult it is to survive today, still doesn't look like some of the rough situations we saw previously. We have another comment from one of you guys. I've been on a content kick of watching people living van life. They're traveling, seeing the world, making memories, and not paying rent. Shows that you could have an experience and save for the future. I don't know how much I agree with the last statement now, because once you start looking into a lot of the van life videos, especially the influencers that'll always make it look like it's the highlights. It's amazing, it's a house on wheels, and I'm not paying rent, so I'm saving so much money, and it's not as easy as most of these influencers make it look.
I just found out I'm getting kicked out of this apartment in 4 months. And instead of just looking for another boring apartment, I actually went for my dream. My name is Andy, I'm 31 years old, and I've always dreamed of van life.
Now, I'm not trying to hate on this guy. He chose to live in a van. It's not because he had absolutely no money and no other option. He ended up getting one of the Sprinter vans, which is probably the most popular for van life. In the end, though, it is a Mercedes van, very expensive. There are many different models and lengths, but it's around $50,000 for these vans, just to start, by the way. If you know what you're doing, a lot of DIY could save you some money, but I think a majority of people don't know how to do this, so clearly that's going to cost you quite a bit more. Another comment from one of you guys, always love the whole van life thing. Something like $80,000 to even get started to live. So this is a very different situation of people becoming homeless and living in the 2006 Accord like we saw earlier. Most of these clips are by choice, just to be able to travel the country, you know, most of the time seeing monuments, seeing the national parks, going all over because they had a work from home job. So all they really needed was a laptop and they could do whatever they want. Again, not trying to hate on any of these people. I'm just saying it's not cheap in the end, especially some of the clips on screen when they start really heavily renovating all of these vans. I mean, it really does look like a living room. Super, super nice, but very expensive. Here we have a description for one of these Sprinter vans. Would you pay $218,000 for this decked out van? You're paying supercar prices for these vans. So again, very, very different situation. I think some people start blending the RV life and actually being homeless living in their vehicle together, when in reality it's just not the same. You even have other creators showing that the RV van life isn't nearly as good as the influencers make it out to be.
Okay, so it's that time of the year where I make a video on how much van life sucks, and let me de-influence you from it for just a moment.
First up, it's honestly pretty gross at times. Well, actually a lot. Depending on your build setup, you're frequently handling your own waste and dirty sink water, which tends to smell pretty bad. Plus, you have to constantly find places to dump these items. Oh, and I almost guarantee you'll have an instance where either your pee or gray water tank spills inside the van. Second, your entire home is going through constant earthquakes when you drive down bumpy roads. So stuff breaks often and you gotta figure out how to fix it or find someone who does. Which also, if your van goes into the shop, you're without a home for who knows how long. It will force you to get real good at going with the flow because your plans will get disrupted all the time. That spot you thought you were going to park for the night, not allowed anymore. The location you were going to fill up on water, closed. The plan you had for your day, scratch it because it took you almost all day to do basic chores. It can be a very unstable and inconsistent life, but to me, the pros heavily outweigh the cons.
So imagine all of those problems happening and you don't have a large van where at least you kind of have a whole bedroom and a little bit of space to move around compared to this clip.
Hey everybody, my name is Tyler, and because of the out of control inflation that we're having in our country right now and rent prices being over $1,500 a month, I have been outpriced at the rental market and I live here in my car full time, and I wanted to give you a brief tour. So starting with the bed here, it is a 3-inch memory foam mattress topper. Super comfortable. I have about 4 layers of blankets, which keeps me warm, especially right now we've got 20-degree weather at night, so it's pretty cold. Moving over here, I have my cooler. I've had a few people tell me I'm not supposed to have this cooler because I live in my car, but it actually was a birthday gift last year for my 30th birthday, and I just can't part with it. I absolutely love it. Keeps all my food cold and fresh for days. I absolutely just adore this cooler, so I'm not going to get rid of it. And in the back there, you can see I have 2 really comfortable pillows.
There is a massive difference between living in one of these Sprinter vans and the back of his car right there. And because he was lucky enough to get the Yeti cooler for a birthday gift, he wouldn't really have much else other than the memory foam bed. Really, really rough situations. He even said it was because of the inflation and the high cost of living. He just couldn't afford it, and he was over 30 years old. Another comment from one of you guys: living in your car is terrifying just in terms of finding parking, not getting harassed by police, safety, and having absolutely nothing to do and going literally insane. You are homeless. I've been there not by choice. If you have any other choice, do not make yourself homeless. Even if you try to apply for apartments, you'll have gaps in your rental history that they will use to disqualify you. That could be a problem as well down the road. But if you don't have enough money, you don't have enough money, what else are you gonna do? And I don't know 100% about where you can and cannot park. I think a lot of areas in general, you're not supposed to overnight park, especially if you're living there. I believe Walmart is one of the places you're allowed to, but don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure. So along with all of the issues, having to go to the bathroom, clearly having no space for yourself and the few belongings you still do have, the freezing cold nights or the really warm weather, same thing in the summer, could be unbelievably hot. Each night you have to stealth camp, which we'll see in a second, to hide the fact that you're sleeping in your own vehicle, just so you don't get in trouble.
So right now I am in a casino parking lot sleeping tonight, and I want to be kind of stealthy. So I put up all my window covers and I try to make it look like there's no one living in the van. So I'm going to show you how I do that. First thing I like to do is make sure I put all of the window covers up on all of the windows in the van. Already up in the back here and on the side, and then I'm going to put them up in the front as well. And then I make sure that I have all of my like chores done before I camp at a spot like this. So I emptied out the gray water a couple days ago. I took out the trash today. I went grocery shopping. So I really have no reason to even leave the van for the rest of the night. With all the window covers up, for the most part, it's pretty blocked out. When it gets super dark out, you can kind of see through this side curtain here. So I like to turn the lights off. I have these string lights that are just, you know, not as bright. So I like to use those at night.
So throughout all this video, what many people are doing with all of their different situations, you can see the extra things that they have to purchase just to be able to do this. Again, adding into the sentiment that you don't actually save as much money as you think. Now, of course, if you're paying $2,000 or $2,500, even $3,000 a month for one of these crazy apartments that are probably luxury or modern, but they're still crap, overall, I bet you'd save money year after year. But a lot of negatives come with this. The safety, being really cold or really hot, having to hide that you're staying and sleeping in the vehicle so you don't get in trouble. I mean, it's just a terrible, terrible situation. We have another comment from one of you guys. I'm in Oregon and places to live are unaffordable here. This goes for buying and renting. We have a huge homelessness problem here. I wonder why. Oregon and Washington State are incredibly expensive. I know it's very nice there. There's a lot of forests. It's pretty. I just remember looking up some of the housing over there. It's incredibly expensive. And to add on to the homelessness problem, if you're lucky enough to have a vehicle, you're very up north. Those winters are rough. So you're gonna have to buy even more things just to be able to survive the night like this.
How do I stay warm living in my car in the cold of Vermont fall and the cold 17 degrees of winter in North Carolina? First, let's talk bedding. So I have 3 layers on my bed. I have my sleeping bag, a super heavy fuzzy blanket that is folded over so it acts as 2 layers, and then I have my comforter that is folded over that also acts as 2 layers. My sleeping bag, unfortunately, is only to 35 degrees, which means comfortable sleeping is 45 degrees. Then, of course, layers upon layers upon layers upon layers. Other things I have done are Reflectic for window covers. Reflectix keeps your windows a little bit insulated so the cold air doesn't seep in.
And all of this still costs money. We could look at one of the comments here. My question is about needing a bathroom. We could look at the response from her.
I had so many questions in that video about how do I use the bathroom while living in my car. And especially as a girl with stomach issues, this is how I use the bathroom while living in my car. 1, state the obvious, public restrooms. Pretty accessible anywhere you go to find a public restroom. Then when I'm camping in the woods, I just go out in the woods. If I have to go poo, I can dig a hole and poo in a hole and then cover it up. But my preferred method when I'm out in the woods is to use this little pop-up camper toilet. I basically unfold it, put it up, put a plastic bag in it, and then sit on it and use the bathroom. And then I throw away my poo in a dumpster or a garbage can.
I'd probably say not the ideal situation for most, but there's a lot of people with no other options, and it doesn't really look to be getting too much better. I mean, maybe you could possibly hope that at least right now, with the economy really not looking too good and everybody agreeing upon that if we do go into a recession, maybe housing prices and rental prices will start going down. Definitely not a guarantee when we've just seen everything increase in price over the past 5 years, basically no matter what. So in the end, none of us really know what's actually going to happen. And even though all of the examples we've seen previously have been because of the high cost of living, that's not the only reason why some people are becoming homeless.
I have a lot of debt, and I am currently living out of my leased car. I just threw a
leased car and just okay.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah.
So you're currently homeless.
Yeah, currently homeless.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Well, how long have you been?
It's only been like 3 weeks.
Wow, what happened 3 weeks ago?
So what happened 3 weeks ago is the guys whose room I was renting out, he ended up selling his property and kicked me out. And because I have no saved money, I couldn't even afford a down payment for another place.
And of course, this is somebody on the financial audit, has a ton of debt and nothing saved. So if anything goes wrong with the people we talk about on the credit card debt videos, any of the doom spending that we've gone over on this channel, there are no other options. Another interesting comment from one of you guys, especially if you start looking up any of these videos in this space, a lot of the times there'll be a comment where some guy or girl saying that they were broke and homeless, but now to such and such person, they earn thousands of dollars every week. And you got to know that this is utter BS. So in the comment sections of some of these videos showing how they're basically barely surviving living in their vehicles, they'll have bot comments or just spam comments saying that they were homeless too, but now they're making millions because of insert guru's name here. It's all complete lies. It's just a way to funnel people into another grifter that you got to pay for an online course or a mentorship or any of the number of things people try to sell and try to take the very small amount of money that you do have. I mean, it's unbelievable how some people prey upon others with almost nothing. But we're going to end off with this clip, probably another situation we're going to start seeing a little bit more in the future.
They look like tired travelers waiting for a flight, but take a closer look. These people are actually homeless.
Well, since right now I'm completely broke, so I'm not going anywhere, just hiding different parts of the airport.
Rebecca has lived here with her adult son and cat for almost a year. She says the airport is safer than the streets and overcrowded shelters.
I left Phoenix with $15,000. It goes quick.
The job and apartment she had lined up both fell through. Then she lost $3,500 in a rental scam. Broke, she landed at the airport, homeless. She uses the Wi-Fi at the airport to apply for jobs. She did get a job, ironically, here at the airport, doing what she did in Phoenix, pushing passengers in wheelchairs, but was fired a week later. She believes the company found out she was homeless.
So I mean, at the end of the day, I definitely don't have this solution, and I don't really know when this could get too much better, because if you're looking at any of the stuff that's happening with the economy around the world, it only really seems to be getting worse, unfortunately. But that's all I got for you guys today. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. YouTube thinks you'll like this video popping up on screen right now, but hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, and I'll talk to you guys later.